Okay, I think there's a couple of things which spring to mind, Chris, that are essential. I think the first key to success, in my experience, is that you've got to approach the new technology like you're starting a business. It doesn't matter if you're working inside a multinational or if you're setting out to create your own business as a spin out or entrepreneur. You have to approach it in the same way. And I think on reflection, my own career successes came when I had that freedom and supportive environment to grow it as a business. But of course, in a large organization, your environment's often fighting against you. I recall one occasion in my career, I was the chief technology officer of the Asia region. And my boss, who was the regional president, he told me off for visiting customers. He told me that's not my job as the CTO, which I just thought, really? So I found also in my early career as a technologist, you can be beaten down, you're squeezed into a pigeonhole, and you're asked to provide the innovation, but you're not taken seriously when you want to take that innovation to market. And for me, that is a definite route to failure for any new product. And I think the second key strategy for success is, one thing I've learned is you've got to pick the right team early on. You can't keep anyone on board that isn't 100% dedicated to working with you and delivering the same goal as you. Otherwise, it just saps the energy of you and the team. And you end up wasting all that time and energy on this kind of internal fighting. And I've experienced that every single time I've set up my own business. Some members of that original founding team, they don't last beyond the first few months or the first year. But you also find that when you're working inside a large organization as well, you need to make the hard decisions early on about whether you're working with the right people or not.
And let's talk about that people perspective for a moment, because it's crucial, as you said, to success. What do you believe is maybe the most, or one of the most underappreciated but essential skill for transitioning from innovation to commercialization in those multinational or global environments? What's the skills that one needs to do that?
Okay, when you're inside a large, complex organization, of course, you're surrounded by people you need to work with to get your job done. And if your job is taking innovation to market, then you're going to need to interact with all sorts of people. So the operations manager, the sales manager, the marketing director, the finance guy, legal, CEO, CTO, etc., etc. Depending on the nature of your role, you might be working with investors or with external suppliers, customers, etc. Local government if you're going to build a factory. Now that's a huge amount of people, all with different backgrounds and all with different objectives. And all of them have a role in making your project a success or not. So depending on how you work with them, they can be a tremendous asset to getting your product to market, or they can be the biggest pain in the ass, and that causes your project to crash and burn. So for me, the most underappreciated skill in the commercialization of innovations is how to influence decision makers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that is key. So how do you do that? I mean, you said it very, very nicely. You said they all have different goals. They have probably different agendas. They're all looking for something different. I mean, sure, for example, a salesperson, obviously, he is looking after sales quotas and delivery of the sales goals. It might be different for a CEO. It might be totally different if goals are not aligned, which often is the case for a CTO or for an engineering team. And then, of course, you have marketing or product marketing that should contribute to that. But again, they look at different metrics than, for example, the CTO. So it sounds like an alignment problem to some degree, in aligning not necessarily the goals and the the job descriptions, but aligning those key decision makers that you have along the way towards making this happen. So how do you do that? How do you align this innovation or technology commercialization thing, especially within large organizations and or if I may add that, also now involving external parties when you talk open innovation, when you talk local governments, or even suppliers and partners. That seems like a huge alignment issue.
There is. You're right, Chris. You've got to find common ground for sure. And the key is always empathy. You've got to put yourself in the other person's shoes. As you've just listed, every person with a different role has to achieve something different. What drives these people? And once you understand that, you have a chance to influence them. You've got to understand what their objectives are. So, let me give you an example. A common scenario we ask to help with is when people have to present to the board. So you've got the CEO, the CFO, CTO, HR lead, anyone who sits on the board. So typically somebody in an organization, you have to go and present because you've got to win their commitment to launch a project, get a CapEx approved or approve some technology pipeline, something like that. So how do people normally approach this? So you want to get buy-in to your plan. So what do? You try to think of everything, every little detail, every pro, every con. You come up with lots of spreadsheets, all the numbers. You have your huge 100-page PowerPoint presentation, everything in exhaustive detail. And you stand in front of them and you present. And you are there to try and show them how clever, how thoughtful, how capable you are. And you present all of this and you simply dare them to find a fault. So what does that do? That means that they just sit there taking pot shot after pot shot at your presentation. And from the start, you've created an adversary. Even if you've got good answers, you failed to influence them effectively. And you have to understand these people. These directors, they might be the most senior in the business, but they're all people. They all want to show how smart and useful they are. So give them the opportunity. Start with the overall goals of the organization. That's where the alignment comes from that you're talking about, Chris. Everybody shares those overall goals. You're all there to achieve the same thing. So start with that and ask to make certain that you and they are aligned, essentially. So then the best strategy for influencing them is to present the broad outlines of your plans and ask for their help. Show them the key decision points and the challenges, and they will start to weigh in. They will start to get involved. And so you get them to figure out how to make it work rather than sitting there looking for the holes in the floors. And once you, in my experience, once you achieve that, everybody's on the same side, that's when the magic can happen.
And that's where probably, it starts to get interesting around details, but certainly not, at the very beginning. Details matter, of course. It's not that we're saying, details don't matter at all. Sure, they do. But it's how you approach the alignment problem for key decision makers in your context. Because, once you've got the alignment, of course, then it's about the details.
Absolutely. And that leads me to another thing that frustrates me a lot and I see a lot in business. As you say, the details have to be there. But one of the key things that I would say is a key skill is you've got to learn how to make things simple, especially when communicating. I still get very frustrated, even in some of the businesses I work with right now, that whenever I ask a simple question, instead of the answer, I get sent all the information on the subject. And that means I've got to read it all. I've got to come up with my own answer. So the ability to summarize and get to the point is a very important skill in business that is quite rare, I find. So if you ask for a summary and people send you a huge full rundown with all the details, all the information, it just simply looks to me like an attempt to justify that they've been working hard. But all it does is it ends up you drowning in data. And that is not effective communication. So learn to keep things simple.
It is certainly not a key to effective communication. Why do you think that's happening? Do people want to, make the impression on you that they're, kind of the smartest to do it and they have full control of everything. Why do you think it happens?
I think people, a lot of these things come down to maturity. And I think as you are becoming more senior in your role, there's people feel this need to justify their existence by how much work they do, how much hours they put in. And of course, that's not really the point. The point of the job is to get results. It doesn't matter how hard you work. If you don't achieve the results, it's worthless. And I liken it to, I find I work with businesses which are like a football team that they seem to think they're the goal of, sorry, that's not a good word, but the point of playing football is to pass the ball around from to each other. Where in fact, the point of football is to score the goal. And I see that a lot. There's a lot of businesses where people are just passing the ball around to each other and they think they're doing a full job and they think they're doing a great job. And they miss the point that they haven't actually scored any goals yet.